This is the story of Kwame and Serwaa, a story where love dared to challenge kings and a promise whispered beneath a flickering flame would change two nations forever. This is the Candlelight Promise. Listen closely. The ancestors are speaking. In the heart of West Africa, where the Harmattan wind sweeps through towering mahogany trees and rivers whisper secrets to the moon, lay two great villages, Bono and Ahafo. For centuries, they were like two sides of the same cloth, bonded by trade, by marriage, and by sacred festivals under the watchful gaze of the ancestors. Their people spoke the same tongue, wore the same bright kente cloth, and shared laughter that echoed through valleys of cocoa trees and gold-laden hills. Children chased dragonflies beneath baobab trees, and fishermen cast nets side by side into rivers thick with tilapia. But peace, like the morning dew, does not last forever. One rainy season, a farmer from Bono unearthed a large golden nugget while planting yam seedlings deep in the sacred valley. Word spread like wildfire. Both Bono and Ahafo laid claim to the valley, is calling it blessed ground of their ancestors. Negotiations failed. Words turned to threats, threats to arrows, and war began. In Ahafo's council hut, elders gathered around a smoking brass bowl, casting kola nuts and reading the symbols they formed. This war will bring suffering, croaked Nana Agyemang, the oldest elder whose voice trembled like dry leaves. Another elder asked, "Which child shall save us?" But the kola nuts remained silent. From Ahafo, 12-year-old Kwame was chosen, not for strength, but for his swiftness, his cleverness, and the courage beating in his small chest. "Go, Kwame," whispered his mother, Mansa, pressing a leather charm into his palm. "Watch the war, return, and tell the truth." For 5 days, Kwame darted through shadows, recording secrets on scraps of bark. He watched Bono warriors signal with drums and listened to soldiers cry for the mothers they'd left behind. But on the 6th day, the Bono warriors stormed Ahafo's defenses like a flood. Kwame ran, but not fast enough. Bono soldiers seized him and dragged him before King Nana Bafurawusu, a man whose robes shimmered with gold and whose eyes burned like twin fires. "A spy," growled the king, said a warrior. The king studied Kwame's trembling form, then waved his hand. "He shall live as a slave." For 11 years in bondage, Kwame's youth slipped away like water through fingers. He pounded fufu, he carried water, scrubbed floors, fetched herbs for palace healers. He toiled beneath the blazing sun and fell asleep each night beneath stars that reminded him of home. But he listened, he watched, and he learned. He learned which chiefs quarreled in secret. He learned the songs sung at coronations and the tunnels hidden beneath the palace. He grew into a tall, lean man with sharp eyes and a quiet spirit. Yet inside, his heart still burned with memories of Ahafo, the princess of Draft. The palace had one jewel, Princess Serwaa. At 22, she was famed across the land for her beauty, her wisdom, and her unmatched skill in the game of draft. Her laughter rang like bells, her eyes glowed like polished ebony. Warriors, traders, even chiefs tried to defeat her, offering gold and cattle for her hand, but none succeeded. One stormy night, when thunder rolled and rain lashed the palace walls, Serwaa stared at her draft board and sighed. "Is there no one in this kingdom who can beat me?" A soft voice answered, "Let me try, princess." Heads turned. It was Kwame, the palace slave. Serwaa arched an eyebrow. "You, a servant?" Kwame nodded. "Draft cares not for rank or name." The game that changed everything. They played by flickering candlelight, the rain drumming the roof above. Serwaa moved swiftly, fingers tapping wooden pieces. Kwame countered every move, his eyes never leaving hers. Piece by piece, Serwaa's army fell silent. At dawn, Kwame whispered, "Checkmate." Silence reigned until Serwaa burst into laughter. "You have beaten me." From that night on, Serwaa summoned Kwame. Night after night, they played. Then they talked. Then they laughed. And they fell in love. They met in hidden gardens, whispering secrets under mango trees heavy with fruit. Serwaa sang songs from Ahafo, taught by Kwame. He taught her proverbs, the meaning of each drum rhythm, and the taste of pepper soup from his village. One night, beneath a blazing full moon, Serwaa pressed her forehead to his. "I would leave this palace for you." Kwame shook his head. "If you leave, war will come again." "But what of love?" she whispered. Whispers spread through the palace corridors. "The princess and a slave?" King Bafur summoned Serwaa, incense thick in the air. "This must end," he thundered. "No," Serwaa declared. "I love him." "You shame me," roared the king, pounding his staff on the marble floor. "A princess and a slave? Never." He ordered Kwame imprisoned for treason of the heart. In his dark cell, Kwame refused food and water, but Serwaa bribed a guard named Kojo, who smuggled him meals wrapped in leaves and news of the outside world. On the fifth night, Kojo whispered, "Tonight you leave. The forest is dangerous, but freedom is better than death." Kwame hesitated. "What about Serwaa? She cannot come." "Not now." Kwame fled beneath a moonless sky, slipping into the wild forest beyond Bono. Unknown to anyone, Serwaa followed him, wearing a dark cloak, clutching a tiny dagger. The forest was a green maze of shadows. Snakes hissed, wild cats howled, rain poured like 1,000 drums. On the second day, Serwaa slipped on wet stones and tumbled into a ravine. Alone, she cried out Kwame's name until her voice cracked. Back in Bono, chaos erupted. "The princess is missing!" The king sent hunters, trackers, even priests, but none returned with news. Then, a voice at the palace gates. Kwame, ragged, defiant. He demanded an audience. "I will find her," Kwame declared. The king stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You dare return?" Kwame stood tall. "If I find her, you must let me marry her." Silence fell over the palace. At last, the king nodded. "Bring her back, and she is yours." Kwame returned to the forest, armed with herbs, a small drum, and burning torches. On the first night, he met an old woman with white hair, spinning silk from spider webs. "Seek the grove of whispering stones," she croaked. "There you will find love or death." And she vanished into the mist. On the third day, Kwame stumbled into a grove where massive stones stood in circles like silent judges. Soft voices drifted through the air. There, lying on moss, was Serwaa, pale, weak, but alive. "Kwame," she murmured. "I am here." He gathered her into his arms, feeding her water from a calabash. Kwame did not take Serwaa back to Bono immediately. He carried her to Ahafo, his village of birth. The people of Ahafo cheered, women ululated. Drummers struck rhythms that echoed through the hills. Serwaa was bathed in warm, scented waters and dressed in shimmering kente cloth. Elders blessed her. That night, a hut glowing with candles and fragrant herbs, Kwame and Serwaa became one. Days later, a healer placed a gentle hand on Serwaa's belly and declared, "A prince grows here." Kwame wept, pressing his lips to Serwaa's forehead. Scene 15. The return of the lovers. Weeks passed. Kwame and Serwaa returned to Bono together. Serwaa's skin glowed, her smile shone like sunrise. She placed a protective hand over her growing belly. King Bafur stared at his daughter, his face stricken with emotion. "She is carrying my child," Kwame said. "Your blood and mine." Long silence. Then the king's eyes welled with tears. "Then let love win, where war failed." The union of Bono Ahafo. King Bafur declared a great festival beneath the ancient baobab tree. Chiefs from Bono and Ahafo arrived in jeweled robes. Drummers pounded rhythms until the earth seemed to shake. The king raised his voice. "The valley shall no longer be longer by cursed, let it become Bono Ahafo, where Bono and Ahafo are one." In Bono Ahafo, children of both peoples played beneath mango trees. Traders carried cocoa, gold, and cloth, and storytellers spoke of love that triumphed over war. Under the baobab, a great draft board was carved into stone. Lovers came from far away to play, and sometimes a breeze rustled the leaves as though whispering, "It began with war, but ended in candlelight." Years later, Kwame and Serwaa sat side by side, hair streaked with silver, watching children laugh under the sun. A young prince ran between them, his laughter ringing like bells. Kwame smiled. "All because of a game of draft," Serwaa took his hand, "and a promise by candlelight." And somewhere when rain falls, the people of Bono Ahafo still say, "When love stands tall, even war bows down."